Noticing any areas of tension. Noticing where your mind wants to wander today. Just noticing. Beginning to send the breath and use the breath as a tool to refocus, to recenter. To reconnect to that light seated above. And on your next breath, imagining that light being pulled down through the crown of your head into the space of your heart. Where the two become one. Allowing the breath to be an invitation to connect deeper and deeper to the Holy Spirit that lives in that heart space. The space of the heart is where hope lies. It is only when we get still that we can feel that hope, that connection. the Holy Spirit alive within our heart. Hope lies in all that God has created. If only we can be still enough to notice. And the glimmers of light reflecting in the water from the sun. And the dew on the grass in the morning. And the blossoms that are beginning to come out in the spring. The song of a bird. And the hard work of the ants. And all that God has created lives hope. As we were uniquely knit together and created, each one of us, so beautifully. There is a peace that can come into our hearts, knowing that we carry that hope within us as well. I'll invite you to imagine walking down a path through a forest. Surrounded by the beauty that God has created. Imagine your feet touching the earth. Feeling the dew of the grass. Feeling the sun on your face. And on this path you come to a fork. To one side is a wide open path, but the trees become less is more bare on this wide open path. And on the other path, are lush flowers, more dense trees, but many large rocks. Much to climb over, many obstacles. But toward the end of this path, you can see a stone wall with a small opening, a narrow opening. This opening is covered with vines holding thorns, but also roses. Through this narrow opening, you can see a little glimmer, a reflection in water, but the rest is unknown. What lies beyond that wall? Imagine walking toward that wall, down that path. Allowing that glimmer to be your guide and your strength as you pass each obstacle. And when you arrive to that small opening, you take a deep breath and exhale as you walk through. Knowing that the thorns may cut, but amongst the thorns are roses, little glimmers, little bits of hope. And as you come through the other side of this narrow opening, you see that it opens up to the most beautiful garden you could ever imagine. And this garden is a fountain. With the sun shining down, reflecting off the water, sparkling with diamonds, little shimmers and glimmers of the hope that the light above us brings. Eden in your heart, in your mind. And breathing into your heart space. Allow yourself to feel a moment of rest, of peace, of ease. Knowing that that hope lives inside you. You have access to that garden at all times. It is never far. Allowing your eyes to gently flutter open when you feel ready. Taking a moment of gratitude for this space, this time of stillness. And inviting God to speak to you as we prepare to receive our message today.
Thank you, Mary. We'll see. We'll see. Bear with me. Thank you for that, Mary. I feel like being led through your imagination is definitely something I've not had in a while, so thank you for that. It's really good. It's important to use your imagination, you know? We kind of forget about that with all the big kid stuff we got to do, you know? So we're wrapping up this Alchemy of Suffering series that we've been in for years. Feels like that, right? We're wrapping this up today, and just a little background for those of you that are just dropping in with it. I've tried to record them and put them on the YouTube channel. We've had some technical difficulties and things here and there, but we're working it out, and so appreciate, you know, all the technical encouragement from people. They're like, it's okay, you know. I'm like, I can see what you really mean, but we're getting there. So if you want to drop in on the past ones, but what we've been doing is looking how suffering in our life can actually be those raw materials that can transform us into not just to have hope, but in revealing the fullness of our being through this process. And we've been looking at how that mirrors this flow that Paul has in Romans 5 of suffering produces perseverance, perseverance produces character, and character produces hope. And so we're talking about hope for a bit today. But I'm not going to teach about hope. I'm just going to tell you some stories about what's been going on in my life, and you can make some parallels to your own. Does that work? So, and also, again, this alchemy of suffering, I like using that language, and I reflect back on that first week that we talked about suffering, because we can't really talk about suffering without talking about the first noble truth, right, Jed? We can't. What is suffering without understanding that life is dukkha? You know, again, an easy one to remember. But yeah, that life it fundamentally can be unsatisfactory, is what the first noble truth of Buddha is that sense of dukkha, unsatisfying. There's not that sense of satisfactory in our life, and we tend to fill that by seeking happiness and purpose and meaning by our achievements, our affiliations, the right beliefs, all of these things, until we find that our soul's not really being satisfied. deep beneath all of that. We're just distracting ourselves with all of these things, trying to fabricate a sense of meaning and purpose in our life. But that deep sense is missing, it's lacking. And only through acknowledging that there's nothing in this world that's going to satisfy us can we begin that inner journey of realizing that there is something actually supernatural that's taking place in the very naturalness of everyday life. And it's through that path and noticing nuance and beginning to accept our journey as it is and looking at it through a lens from our own sense of meaning and purpose, the meaning that we ascribe to it. That's how we begin to uncover who we are and eventually, hopefully, get to a sense of hope. And so we'll talk about hope a little bit, but I just want to say it's interesting that this series has kind of been going on for a long time, and it was my first time trying a series. And I was a little apprehensive, because I'm a mega church pastor's kid, so I like series overload, It's everything's about the new series that's launching, and that's fine and good in its own regard. But back whenever I was a kid, it always mirrored TV shows when that was a big thing, and you'd have a Survivor themed. I think they still have that show though. 20 years ago, they had Survivor themed, sermon series, whatever, and I'm I don't know, let's just take one-offs of feeling what the prompting is, But we decided to do this thing of a series. And I'm not going to lie, after the last gathering, I was kind of dude, I think we're just going to cut the thing off and not land the plane because I'm ready to do something else, Getting a little bored with this idea of feeling confined that I have to talk about these things. And as it would happen, I got a healthy dose of suffering myself just to remind me about this whole process. A few days, I guess about the next weekend after the last gathering, I should preface with I got this new to me dirt bike off Marketplace. Now, bear with me, there's spiritual things here. But, I grew up riding dirt bikes. I've always loved motorcycles and things or whatever. I had this other one. I sold it. And so I was immediately on the hunt for this other, something else. And for motorcycle friends in the room, I had a 4-stroke. I really wanted to go back to a 2-stroke. So I was searching and scouring Marketplace, and finally I had to be okay, my thumb hurts from refreshing, so let's give it some time. And I found, we were at a kid's birthday party, one of my kids' friends, and I just decided to pull the phone out and just check. And this dirt bike came on there. It's 1999. Great year. I won't ask how old you were in 1999 or if you were born yet. But it's in 1999, and I was this is exactly what I'm looking for. He only wanted $650 for it. I'm dang. Sold. Hit him up, go pick it up, whatever, yada, yada. It'd been sitting for a while. I won't bore you with all those details. But it needed a little TLC. I used to work at a motorcycle shop, so I took it over there. They did some work on it for me, whatever. That weekend came, we go out to go ride, and I'm all excited, I'm the vintage 2-stroke vibes, and just couldn't wait to get out there. So I fire the thing up, and I take off, feeling I should be wearing some Jinkos and Doc Martens, but I take off, and I just get a little bit on this trail, and the front end kind of starts messing up some, whatever. I'm okay, what's going on here? And when it starts to give me problems, the real answer is always to give it more gas. So you just come on the throttle more, right? Anyways, the front wheel locks up. I go over, and immediately my foot starts hurting, and there's a problem with the front brake system. Some good Samaritan came and helped me out and whatever, but my foot is throbbing. I get back to the truck, whatever, and it's just this increasing, excruciating pain. But I'd had this pain before, It had been some time, and I felt it coming on. And to bore you with all the extra details, bottom line is I go and I get an x-ray, I go see the doctor, whatever, and it turns out I have gout. Do you know what gout is? Yeah, old people that are rich get gout. I'm neither. You know what I mean? Gout. Yeah, your bones are fine, man. All this stuff's fine. It's just your joint is inflamed. She's do you drink a lot of alcohol? I'm like, no, I'm spiritual. Just kidding. But I really don't. I don't drink that much stuff. She's like, do you eat a lot of steak? I'm like, again, spiritual. Do you eat a lot of shellfish? All this stuff. Like going down the list, I'm like, dude, I don't do any of these things. Why is my foot like a red balloon and I can't walk? So anyways, all this stuff's happening, and it's excruciating. I won't ask you if you have this or if somebody that you know has this, but it's like, then I saw my friend who we went dirt bike riding with, and he's like, hey, how's the old lunch lady doing today? I'm like, okay, thanks. At any rate, I'm like laid up on the couch trying to do my other work and stuff, and it is just excruciating. And I'm like, just like this, to be getting done with talking about the alchemy of suffering, because at that point life was going great. I'm getting deals on dirt bikes, things are going well, I'm writing insurance business, stuff's going good, man. I don't want to talk about the alchemy of suffering anymore. Bam! And like really not a lot of business coming through either. That's another story. And so I'm like laying there thinking through all of this, and immediately it's so tempting that whenever bad things begin to happen, we start to try to come up with some logical reasoning for why this is taking place. And if you're anything like me, I wonder, okay, so who can I blame here? The dumb mechanic that didn't look at this bike right that I dropped it off at, The guy that left it sit outside for too long. Myself for not like taking it easy before holding the thing wide open. We tend to go to blame whenever it doesn't quite all line up and make sense, whenever we're going through seasons of pain or suffering, hardship. Who is it that we can blame for this? By the way, it's okay too. Like early on whenever I was through my deconstruction world, and if those of you are just getting to know me, I'm a pastor's kid, did some ministry stuff, for years, spent some time, years away from it all, and have been revisiting back into this sort of path in a refreshed way. But through that time, I remember one time binge listening to all the Ram Dass stuff, which is still great. I love it. And ask any other pastor in town if he enjoys Ram Dass. Just saying. But I was listening to Ram Dass, and he's talking about how he used to have a Triumph motorcycle, and he used to have his pilot's license, and I started feeling bad about like enjoying things in life, Like, oh, if I'm really going to walk the path, I can't like things in life. I can't do things in life. And I started to feel a little guilty, and so I don't know, I felt like that's something to mention, is like if you're feeling like you're really wanting to be sincere about this path of unfoldment in your life, of who God is working God's self to be through you, it's sometimes tempting to want to just like be like everything is not to be enjoyed and to abstain from it all. And then you turn into like a medieval era monk where you're putting ashes on your food because you can't enjoy anything, There's no end to it. But hopefully the encouragement is that there is a season where you need to kind of reel back from some of those things so you can evaluate. Where am I being had? Where are my attachments? Where are the things that I feel like I can't live without them? Where's my identity coming from in them? Is it in, riding choppers? Because we don't ride Dynas around here. Where is it coming from? Where is it? Where are the things of this world that are bringing the definition and formation to who I am? And this is part of what we call a deconditioning process. And certain times are necessary to pull back from the things that we find as escapes, as distractions. But I don't believe it's just to stay that way. I think it's just to set it up in a more holistic way. That you can engage with it and then you don't need it. It's experimenting with what that line is of being had by something in life. And so evaluating that for a period of time is really important. And for whatever reason, I felt it important that as you're being more sincere about your path, wherever you're at, or maybe you're reintegrating some fun things into your life, learning what that balance is between taking your incarnation seriously and sincerely while enjoying things like, old dirt bikes and getting hurt on them and stuff like that, But it's tempting that whenever things happen that there's someone to blame. And I was sitting there finally I was able to stand up enough to get in the shower. And I'm like a shower every night kind of person, so a couple days later, I'm like, oh, God, I can't live with myself any longer. And so I finally am like in there, and Lindsay keeps checking on me like a good wife. She's like, are you okay? Can you stand up? Are you going to fall? And then I have to try to drag you somewhere, And I was just like pissed off about this whole thing. Like, dude, I'm 35. I'm fairly healthy. Okay, I eat some extra ice cream. But like gout? My lot in life. And it started to bring up other things. And I wasn't going to tell you this. I was going to get to another punchline, but maybe for some of you. I've had like this phobia sometimes of like heart things or like organ things. And I know. I'll wake up in the middle of the night, my heart will be beating. Interesting. I'm like, I'm dying right now. I'm for sure dying. Like, there's something wrong with me, and I sell life insurance, and I've not bought myself one yet. What's going on? Like, I need to figure something out for the kids, and what's going on, and whatever. And so I found out that like gout's like an early thing of like, you need to be watching like your kidneys and your liver and your heart stuff. Like, it's an early thing about that. So I'm like, okay, great. It's like a prompting to orient my life differently now, So if you're scared about stuff, just be mindful of the small things that pop up. But I'm in the shower, and I'm like, okay, thinking through all this because I don't want to like die yet. I'm fine with dying. It's cool. You read the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying, you're like, okay, I can do this. I've probably done it many times before, and it was probably just as scary. How many times have I been on this ride? Oh, man. And so this passage of Jesus came to my mind where he's walking, and I could read it to you or I could just tell it to you, but you probably trust me, it's in the book. You know what I mean? Do I need to read it from the book? You can look it up later. It's in John 9, and they're walking and they see a blind man, and his disciples begin to ask him, who sinned, he or his parents? Who sinned? Why is he blind? Why was he born blind? Because there's still this conditioning in our mind that punishment is God's favorite thing to do. Why does he have to live through this life suffering in this situation? Who did it? Was it his parents that did something wrong? What was it him? Was there something about his life, but he'd been born from birth? So like, was there something pre-incarnation that took place? Some karmic thing that he's working out right now? Argument could be made, but we'll leave that there. That's happening. And there is this question moment, and you can read it in a lot of different angles if you want to. You can use this thing however you want. I've been on this whole thing of like every tool can be a weapon also. Shovels can dig holes, and they can also kill people. So use it how you would like. And so there's this conditioning around needing to understand who sinned, who did something wrong here in that idea of wrongness. And sin just means to miss the mark, essentially. And Words Create Worlds, I'd talk about that some more. It just means like you're not living in the center of what's your purpose here, what's the deeper soul expression. But who sinned? Who did something wrong? And Jesus responds to them, neither. Like, why are we still trying to pass the blame on to somebody for some bad thing that happened? And he tells them that it's because something here is meant to take place. Something here is meant to happen today for you to witness. And it becomes a lot less about what someone did or didn't do. The circumstances are what the circumstances are. And instead of spending energy and effort trying to understand who is to blame for all of this, and trying to understand God only through the lens of apparently if somebody's in a bad situation, they did something wrong. And if you come from any sort of like charismatic or Pentecostal background, you'll know. It's like, oh, something happened to them. They're like, well, Lord's having his way. That's what the deal is. So, we'll pray for them at a distance, but we can't associate with them anymore. And it's tempting to want to do that. And In another instance as well, there's a instance in Luke 13 where there was like a current event that had taken place, apparently. There was a tower that had fallen and killed like 18 people. And again, they were trying to understand some sort of logic and reasoning for what it is. They were Galilean people, and they said, did they do worse things than other Galilean people of that? He said, why are you trying to ask who did the worst thing and now they're getting theirs? There is no logical explanation in this place right now. And I think a lot of times when we think about hope, we think about circumstances proving that God's at work in our life in some way. Showing an evidence, oh, they are manifesting houses on the beach, so they must be somehow in God's favor. I don't think it's that way. Or bad things happen, whatever yin and yang you want to take in that direction. But there is a temptation towards always looking to the logical, rational explanation for what happened here. Why is this happening? And at the end of Rick Rubin's book, if you've read that at all, the very end, he says, the universe never answers why. Never answers why. That question will lead us round and round and round. It's rather what's happening in this moment. What is taking shape in this moment? What's being revealed in this moment? How am I learning how to judo life a little better? And understanding God's purpose and plan through it all. The reason that you're here is to have this sort of learning experience. There's a timeline of reality, a sequential timeline, so that we can learn and grow and process what it means to be in this human form. Pick up the lessons that we're here to learn. And when that dial twists in your heart and mind, hope's the natural outcome of that. Because hope is not just like wishful thinking for some circumstances to be better. Hope is like this deep inner optimistic knowing that, like, of course things are going to happen. There's an inner tug, there's an inner pull, there's something that is drawing you further down this pathway that has a sense of optimism to it, where you're not preferring or avoiding all the time. You're able to now live life in a way that is centered and grounded. And it's a process of doing that. I don't get to do that all the time. Again, I have a witness. Ask Lindsay. She'll tell you the truth. It's not always balanced in that way. But as we land this series and land the plane today, my hope is that whatever you have gone through or are currently going through that you're trying to make sense of, maybe your head is not going to be able to get wrapped around any logical or rational explanation of the circumstance or situation you're finding yourself in. And the invitation today is for you to be able to release the grip that you have on needing something to be a particular way in order for you to have hope, or so that you can have hope. That it's within all of these things that happen that the truth is revealed. And again, I love how Jesus shows that all of your preconceived notions you have, we're going to flip all those upside down. And there's a lot of other stuff, and I guess I'll land it with this. I know we're going a little over, but we started super late. I don't know if I should say that or not. I don't know. We'll hold off. Land the plane there. We'll see. But I invite you to stand with me. Let's close as we pray today. And if something else comes up, it'll come up. So wherever you're at today, wherever you're finding yourself in the confusion and chaos of what it means to be human, I ask right now in the presence of the Spirit that there would be at least some sort of pattern that bubbles to the top for you. That there's a pattern of goodness even in the perceived misfortune that's happening in your life. that there is a pattern available to see, that things will come back around again in some other way. That there is a pattern in the waves of life. There's a rhythm in the high tide and the low tide. And there's an invitation to trust the natural order of divinity to work out that flow. So we ask now, God, that you would bring peace and presence, and that you would empower us to live fully in tune with the incarnation that you've given us to live. I even pray for a sense of reflection this week, in random times, in random places, that just revelations of the pattern of divinity would show up in your life. Revelations of goodness would show up in your life. That faith and trust would be ignited again in your heart, that there is something else that is taking place here beyond what my mind is trying to make sense of. And that we would be open to that and accepting of that. And that we would allow the resistances of our hearts to show us the places that we need to open more, not close. So God, we thank you for this space. We thank you for everything that's happening, all of it. We say everything belongs and has purpose. Help us see it. Help us hear it. And so be it. Amen. So good. So I should tell you, in that story where the blind man from birth, Jesus ends up saying some far out things that you probably will be like, huh? What do you mean? The light's going out in the world? We're going to end. You don't have to sit down, by the way. I'm closing. They're like, here he goes again. I'm not that charismatic anymore. But I just thought I should say that he does this almost like some sort of, can I say, like a seance-y ritual or something. I don't know. He does something weird. Spits in the ground, in the dirt, and makes some mud and puts mud on his eyes and tells him to go wash it off in a very particular place. Okay, Siloam. And he goes, and that place that he tells him to wash it off means sent. And so he sends him there to wash the mud off the eyes. But isn't it fascinating? The person that's born blind from birth, he didn't just open his eyes up. He puts mud on, essentially making it worse. If there was any light getting in before, it's not coming in now, And tells him to go. Do you ever wonder, how did he find the place where he was supposed to go? Who helped him? Who helped him get there? Well, in Ram Dass terms, we're all just walking each other home. We all have mud on our eyes, helping walk each other to the place where we can wash that off so we can see clearly. That's all we're doing here. Helping each other walk home. And it's from that place then, and they say, who did this to you? He's like, I don't know, some dude, and he's not here anymore. It's not always about the form, but it's about the fruit that comes from that and being faithful in that. And so just thought I should drop that in on you and end the story there. It actually gets even more spicier. I say spicy in terms of whatever. Lindsay's like, spicy means like sexual or something. So I don't know if I can say these things or not. But to me, I'd like, okay, the story gets more interesting because they go before. It's a bunch of stuff. Go read it if you want. But that scene ends there. And so if it feels like it's darker right now, there's probably some mud on your eyes. Not that things are getting worse, but there's an invitation that it's going to be washed off. We just want to help each other walk to that place. So with that, Easter's in 2 weeks. Come back, join us for Easter. It's going to be a beautiful morning. Lindsay and Mary, we're going to play some music as well. Got some guitar with all the effects and pedals and make it vibey in here. With Sound Bath, we're going to be talking about the symbolism of resurrection and things like that. So see you in 2 weeks. Say hello to somebody. You all found yourself here. You might find a friend. See you in 2 weeks, guys.